A show based on the facts, honesty, the man, the myth, the legend. ChristiTutionalist Joseph M. Leonard.
Welcome to ChristiTutionalist Politics Podcast, aka CTP. I am your host, Joseph M. Leonard, and that's L-E-N-A-R-D. CTP is your no muss, no fuss, just me, you, and occasional guest type podcast. Really appreciate you tuning in. As Graham Norton would say, let's get on with the show! Hello, everyone. A brief special intro to this week's show. You know, Saturdays, I normally have on monologues that are in conjunction with a written article at thelibertybeacon.com. Well, we're working through some issues. So today's show, as well as an occasional other Saturday show here and there, may not be a monologue in conjunction with thelibertybeacon.com as I work to sync and coordinate, juggle before it's news.com, thelibertybeacon.com, as well as now introducing Substack as an outlet for my articles, needing to try to coordinate and sync them all together, and some Saturdays that may or may not happen. So instead, like today, you're going to get what would normally be a Wednesday guest appearance drop. So, just a brief intro to let you know what's going on. Today is not a monologue. Today is a guest appearance. And as I say in the opening, Graham Norton used to say, he doesn't say it anymore. He used to say, let's get on with the show. What he says now, let's get a guest on. Well, he says, let's get some guests on, because that's why I love his show. He has a couch and has like 4 guests out at once, and it's a roundtable kind of discussion. Me, sometimes I might have 2 people on at once, like I did the Vegas Faith Engagement Forum, the upcoming or past, depending on when you see this, Zoomers to Boomers discussion with Roger of the Liberty Beacon Project overall, and Huck. They have Zoomers to Boomers show. So once in a while, I might have 2 or 3 guests appear at once, but generally it's just one. Okay, I've rambled enough. Let's get to the show. Going to join me today is Jeff Patterson. And, do you know who Jeff Dunham is? The ventriloquist? Oh, the ventriloquist guy. Joke is one of the dummies calls him Jeff Fafa because it's 2 F's. Well, your name doesn't begin with a G, but it does have 2 F's, Jeff, and 2 T's in Patterson, Patterson. And you're here to discuss the benefits of medication. Oh, no, wait a minute. We all know the benefits of medication when it works right, but we also all know the downsides of the ugly, nasty side effects, right? So I know, really, medication, which I do know what that is. That's when you go to a medium and they meditate and you talk to dead relatives, right? Again, all kidding aside, I am very interested and serious about you being here, but my audience knows I can't pass the lame puns and the wordplay. So get that out of the way. But it is almost like divine providence that we were scheduled to talk tonight. I don't know exactly when the show will air, but behind the scenes, we're recording now Monday, December the 2nd. So hope you had a nice Thanksgiving and a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and all that stuff coming up. But I literally just got off Gab Social, the social media platform, and had a discussion going back and forth with someone about when are people going to get off their hindsides and do something? And I tagged the Network movie from 1976. I'm sure you know that, right? I want you to go to the window. I want you to open it. And I want you to scream at the top of your lungs. I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. So I know the benefits of riling people up at times, but also, as I'm going to need after we're done recording, calming down. And that's why you're here. Meditation. Yes?
Yes, I like to show people that meditation is not something that you need to retire to a cave and be quiet for the rest of your life. There's so many ways to integrate meditation into your life where you can use it to help you with anything you do. And so I show people how to build an evolving life practice where it's easy to integrate into their day-to-day activities. And, I've been teaching now for over 30 years. I've been running this academy here in Portland since 1994. I've been fortunate enough to have over 26,000 students come through the academy. And I've heard hundreds of stories of how people have integrated meditation into their life and seen many amazing benefits from the practice. And that's what's made me so passionate about trying to get the message out there and really putting my heart and soul into this practice.
Mm-hmm. Well, before we go into that more, let me do the Cue the Who song, right? Who are you? Who? Where were you born and raised, and where are you now? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I'm out here in Portland, Oregon. I was born in Southern California, but mostly raised in Southern Oregon in a little small town called Eagle Point. And I've been up here in Portland since about 1991. And I knew after being here for only 6 months, it was going to be my home for the long term. And I just kind of sunk roots and started making it a place to settle down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's great. That's great. And I wrote one of my notes. I don't script a show, but I occasionally make some notes, and then we just go where the rabbit holes open. I wrote down Om, right? Now, a lot of people like to make fun of what they don't understand. Now, we shouldn't be making fun of it. We should learn about it. And indeed, that all, even with the Om sound, the all bringing everything together in a meditation and a meditative state to calm ourselves and separate ourselves from the world is not something to mock or laugh at. It's a good thing.
For sure. It's when you make sounds, we do them to create different energies in the body as well as having a different mindset. So when you mention the sound Om, a lot of times people put a meaning to that. Like, so for example, for me, it's the change of strength and beauty of true nature we all possess. The Buddha's body brings peace, bliss, clarity, firmness, courage, stability, and strength. So when I think of that sound, these are kind of the interpretations or some of the meanings that I put behind that. And you can do that to just change your mindset, but you can also do that to tap into the resonance of the sound, which is very calming and peaceful and helps to relieve tension in the body. And so sometimes people will use sounds like that as vibrations in a ritual practice or in active practices. And anytime somebody is integrating a meditation practice into their life, I break down kind of 3 different modalities that you want to have in your practice, and they are ritual practices, active practices, and philosophical practices. Ritual practice is where you set a little bit of time aside every day and you spend some time doing a sitting meditation or a movement practice like Tai Chi or Qigong, where you don't have your cell phone or you don't have any screens around and you're able to just kind of tap in and stay connected to who you truly are and be more in tune with that mind-body awareness. And then we have active practices, and these are great because You can do them when you're walking down the street or standing in line at the grocery store, and they can be done as little as 60 seconds. It makes kind of no sense to meditate every day if the rest of the day you're all stressed out and anxious. And so we do these active practices to help find that peace of mind in everything we do. And then lastly, we have our philosophical practices, and these can be integrated into active practices or ritual-based practices.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Podcast fans, get more about your favorite podcasts via deepcast.fm, transcripts, and all kinds of extra available information on your favorite podcasts, including ChristiTutionalist Politics Podcast, is listed at deepcast.fm, as well as, are you a podcaster? Well, you can claim your free listing and more via Deepcast Pro. Check out tinyurl.com/DeepcastPro for podcasters for your free listing, and that's the number 4 in there. tinyurl.com/DeepcastPro for podcasters, the number 4, Deepcast Pro, the number 4 podcasters via tinyurl.com extension. Take care, all. You gotta check them out. Get more out of your podcast, whether you're the podcaster or the podcastee. Yeah, I think I just invented that word. I mentioned the Om thing, which of course you went to the obvious, relating it to Buddhism. And this being a Christian show, I unfortunately have to admit, sometimes there are far too many fellow Christians that will try to poo-poo anything or look down upon anything because it is something other than Christianity. And to me, that is a major fault, a major problem. Don't think of it as a Buddhism thing. Think of it as a beneficial thing to our health. And I would take it, you agree, this, you do not have to link to Buddhism for this.
Not at all. And I'm not a Buddhist, and I don't follow the Buddhist path. I think that there's something to be learned from all philosophies out there. And, a lot of reasons why people come to the meditative arts can be for various different reasons. They follow to improve their athletic performance, which is why so many professional athletes these days are turning to the meditative arts. They do for the therapeutic benefits because they want to stay healthier into their later years and they want to stay more mobile. There's the medical side of the training, which all of Chinese medicine is based off of Qigong theory, which is one of the meditative arts. Then there's the philosophical side of the practice, and then also the spiritual side of the practice. And it doesn't matter what religious path you follow, you can use these practices to stay more connected to yourself and to be more in tune in the present moment, so it enhances your religious beliefs. It's in no way meant to take you away from anything that you have a strong connection to religiously.
Yeah, and again, recording on December 2nd, the Thanksgiving Day games of football just occurred, of course. So I'm going to try to tie this in an oddball way, but I think when we get down this road, it will make sense. I have always said why the Lions, even any year that they have a bad team, a good team, this year was the first year they won a Thanksgiving Day game in 8 years. They were good last year. They still lost on Thanksgiving. Bad years, their Thanksgiving Day record is dismal. And I say that because they are home all the time. They have all the trappings of everything going on them. And the opponent, tying in meditation here in a a very odd way, but they're up in the hotel. They don't have all that noise. In a way, they're meditating, right? They are focused solely on the game, so they are ready for it. And that's why Dallas also has a dismal record on Thanksgiving, because they're home all the time. You understand? Does that make sense about the focus, the meditation? I think the average person, once they hear that, can understand the value of that focus.
Yeah, definitely. Meditation does help with focus. There's so many different applications of the practice, and in any meditation practice, whether it's a sitting practice, a movement practice, there's 5 underlying principles with the practice. I call them the 5 regulations. There's regulating the body, regulating the breath, regulating the mind, regulating the energy, and regulating the spirit. And briefly, I'll kind of talk a little bit about what I mean when I say those. So regulating the body, the basic idea of that is paying attention to your skeletal alignment, your muscular tension in the body. So for example, if you're sitting down at your computer for 3 or 4 hours and you start feeling lethargic, your shoulders are getting tight, maybe your neck's getting sore, and this is all due to how we're holding our posture and how we're moving. And then think about another time when the most important person in your world walks in the room and your body perks up and energetically you feel like you're on top of the world. Well, these 2 different energetic states we're in 100% control of all the time. And so understanding how to be aware of these imbalances is part of the regulating the body. On a little deeper level, it's making sure that we're getting enough nutrition, making sure that we're keeping some kind of muscular tone so we can stay healthy and keep our metabolism up, making sure we're maintaining some sort of flexibility and getting enough sleep. All of these things, which could be talked about in depth, are part of regulating the body. Then we have regulating the breath. And regulating the breath is a very deep topic, and it's something that we could literally talk about for hours, but briefly, I'll kind of touch base on what I mean by that. So within any kind of meditation, there's different breathing strategies. And in Qigong, it's often referred to as the science of the breath because there's so many different breathing strategies. And we use these strategies to get different physical, mental, and emotional outcomes. So once we understand how to use this breath as a strategy, it can be very powerful. And in Chinese philosophy, they call this balancing the kan and li, or the water and fire. And an example of the breath would be, if you ever listen to somebody sleep, you'll notice that they do naturally longer inhales and shorter exhales. And this is the body's natural way of bringing your conscious mind into your subconscious mind, which is where we are when we're sleeping and dreaming. And so if we want to emulate this style of energetic expression in the body, we can do longer inhales, soft retentions at the end of the inhale, and shorter exhales to help bring that energy inward, which is great for stress reduction, dealing with anxiety, dealing with panic attacks, improving our creativity. And there's many applications of this side of the breath. Then we have the yang side of the breath, and this is more aggressive. It's kind of like if you ever had to push your car, you pick up something heavy. Your natural instinct is to exhale and put tension in the breath and maybe make the breath audible. And this is a way to generate energy and expand the energy. Now, once you
kind of the opposite of the om, the
little bit, yes. Yeah. And so once you understand how to use the breath this way, now, most people, they go through the day with emotional ups and downs like a roller coaster. A lot of times, we want to try to be a little bit more balanced. And so understanding how to recognize these imbalances and use the breath as a tool. So when you see yourself getting excited, we can use the yin side of the breath to help bring us back down. When we see ourselves starting to feel depleted, we can use the yang side of the breath to help bring us back up. And this is a way to maintain that regulatory balance of our energetic expression in the body, the breath, and the mind. And now the next regulation is a very deep thought as well. And it's the idea of regulating the mind. And it's something where if you take on a meditation practice, you'll be studying this for the rest of your life. And one of the most common things I'll hear people say is, I tried meditation before and it just didn't work for me. I couldn't quiet my mind. And I've heard that hundreds of times over. And somewhere along the way, people got this misguided idea that in order to be successful at meditation, you have to reach this state of nirvana and this blissful place where nothing bothers you. And it couldn't be further from the truth. I've spent the last 36 years of my life studying these arts, and I've traveled around the world many times studying with practitioners all over the planet. And I have never once met anybody who doesn't get distracted, no matter what their level in the practice is. We're all human, we all get distracted. And once you realize this is where we can really start getting into deeper levels of practice. Because, say, for example, you're sitting doing a meditation for 20 minutes, or maybe you're doing a Tai Chi form or some yoga postures, and you get distracted 50 times during that session. Every time you get distracted, you recognize the imbalance, you use your posture, your breath, your thoughts to help bring yourself back to center. And now you just got 50 repetitions of being out of balance and coming back to center. And if you do that every day, every month, every year, you start to develop this power and this ability to just take yourself back to that focused, balanced state in any time of the day, no matter if somebody says something to throw you off your game or you have a stressful day at work or whatever it is. And so this is a very important pillar in the practice. And then we have regulating the energy, which is the next stage. And regulating the energy is a very deep topic and something that, we could talk for hours about. The idea of regulating the energy, the basic idea is that once you have come to a competent level of regulating the body, the breath, and the mind, you now have the ability to circulate the energy in the body or lead it inward or extend it outward to get these different energetic expressions within our practice. And then lastly is the spiritual side of the practice. And then this fundamental side of the practice is very deep and profound. And a lot of meditation practitioners will spend their entire life's journey working towards that ultimate stage of enlightenment or realization. And so once you have these 5 fundamental basics and you're nurturing those and growing them, you will see that meditation can affect anything we do in life and make it better.
Yeah, immediately when you said the different regulations, I wrote down my note, regulating the mind. And did you see me point to my head? My OCD brain that wants to go 1,000,000 miles an hour in 1,000,000 different directions all at once, all the time. So yeah, that's my issue, regulating and calming the brain. I'm better now, thankfully. I can go to sleep at night, whereas when I'm on disability now, whereas when I was working, being hyped up, go to bed, I'm immediately playing through the next day and not getting sufficient sleep. And being an IT guy, getting awakened several times during the night to deal with IT problems, my body shut down, not getting enough sleep. So I'm better at that now, but I've got a long way to go at being even better at that. Rather than me ask you the next question, what would you have liked me to ask your next question be, and answer yourself?
Being a teacher for so many years, one of the most difficult tasks I find is helping people get on this path so they can see all the many benefits that come by integrating meditation into your life. And so what I found is I now ask any new practitioner coming to the practice these 3 questions or these 3 tracks to kind of spend a little bit of time and consideration. And I find that they're very helpful with making people more successful upon taking on a meditation practice. And the first one is, think about why you're being drawn to a practice. Do you want to stay healthy into your later years to watch your grandkids grow up, or so you can go on long walks as you age? Or do you have a stress ailment that you're dealing with, anxiety or panic attacks, and you want to learn how to feel comfortable in the grocery store because you always have panic attacks when you go out of the house? Or are you an athlete and you want to improve your performance? And then think about not just why, the surface level why, but how all of the things in your life will change if you make this happen. If you get to the point where you don't have panic attacks anymore, how's that going to
Four
affect
guests out
everything
at
you
once.
do? And then flip the coin and think about, if you don't do it, all of the negative things that will happen. And you were using this as fuel, because I don't care who you are, how disciplined you are, there's going to be a time where your alarm's going to go off in the morning and it's time to get up and practice. And you're going to want to hit the snooze button and say, I'll miss it today, I'll do it tomorrow. And if you have a good, strong why and you have a reason to get out of bed and make it happen, that's when you really start seeing some of the benefits from this training. And then the next thing to consider while entering a practice like this is the importance of consistency. And through consistency in our practice, we develop our discipline, integrity, our perseverance. And these are things that not only affect our training, but affect and bleed over into every area of our life. And so having this consistent practice is really the heart of any meditation journey. And then lastly is you need to find a guide, because meditation is a very deep topic. It's something I've been studying for a long time. I do it professionally. This is, my livelihood, and I'm still just a student learning all the time. And if you think that you're going to be able to be self-taught and go watch one of the million videos out there on YouTube or listen to some app and think that you've got it figured out, you're going to waste a lot of time, and I've been, running this academy, as I mentioned, for 30 years. I've had students come in here that have been self-taught, that have been training for 15, even 20 years, and they'll come into the academy and see somebody who's only been here for a year that's a lot further and deeper into their journey than they've made it over 15 years, and life is short and your time is valuable, and finding a good guide is not that difficult. So, if you take into consideration those three things and really have a meaningful why, understand the importance of consistency, and find somebody to help point you on the shortest path to get where you want to go, you'll be successful with the practice. And anybody out there who's considering that, that's what I want for you.
Yeah, and before you said something about have someone get you off your game. I was on an interview earlier for another show, and I brought up the Christian rock group King's X. This kind of goes along these lines. They have a song called Black Flag. There was a black flag on my morning. There was a black flag on my day. And it goes on to further say, but it was up to me how I wanted it to be. And that's the point. That sense of having a self-control. You don't let someone else get you off your game. Are you going to have that knee-jerk, guttural, often negative reactionary desire to lash out, or can you calm and collect yourself in that moment and indeed not let them put you off?
Yes, very much. And one of the things that I think is very helpful in doing this is the whole concept of yielding. And in my most recent book, The Yielding Warrior, I break down the concept of yielding into three basic pillars. We have physical yielding, mental yielding, and emotional yielding. Physical yielding is the easiest one to understand, and it's the idea that I push you, you push me, whoever's the bigger, stronger person with the most leverage eventually is going to push the other person over. But with yielding, instead of us trying to see who the bigger meathead is, when you push me, I get out of the way of that force, and now I can respond with less effort. So I'm not trying to butt heads with you and see if I'm bigger and stronger than you. Now, it's obvious how this is beneficial in any kind of athletic endeavor, because you're going to come up against other athletes that are bigger and stronger than you, no matter what it is that you do. But in order to be good at physical yielding, a lot of things have to come into play. You need to be well rooted. The lower part of your body needs to be strong and flexible so you can change your central equilibrium without getting tight. The body has to be relaxed. The breath has to be calm, and the mind has to be present. Now, while it may be a lifetime journey to really master these skills, once you do, now, even from day one, when you start integrating meditation into your life, you start seeing these things inside yourself more clearly. And this is where it becomes very interesting, because now not only do you see them more clearly inside yourself, but you also start to see these things more clearly in other people. So now, say, for example, you and I are having a conversation, and I say something that unsettles you, and I pick up on it right from that first sign of imbalance. It's a lot easier to adjust the conversation and keep us in a happy place than if I'm not paying attention to that, and pretty soon I'm so far off track, you want to knock me upside the head. And so learning how to use yielding in all of our interactions is extremely powerful, because one, we're just being more considerate, which is something we should all do more of anyway. And two, it allows us to be strategic and guide conversations to a positive outcome with the least amount of resistance. And this is beneficial in our relationships and business and sales and negotiations. I mean, there's so many different ways that we can apply this idea. And then lastly, we have the idea of emotional yielding. And emotional yielding is very much like mental yielding, but with our own interpersonal conflicts. So you think about, oftentimes something will happen and we'll respond, and we'll go down this path, and we might get an hour, a day, a week down that road and realize maybe that wasn't the best choice. But with yielding and our ability to stay present by adapting meditation into our life, oftentimes when these things happen, rather than letting our emotions get involved, we're able to sit back and be present and oftentimes make a more educated decision that saves us a lot of heartache on the other side. And I've been explaining this idea of yielding now for many years, running this academy for 30 years. And one of the most common things I hear people say is, yielding makes a lot of sense. In fact, I use yielding all the time. Well, I would agree in that I think everybody does some degree of yielding all the time. But it's kind of like if you or I were to walk into a crime scene with a detective who's been on the job for 30 years, I guarantee you that person would see things about the series of events and the timeline that I know at least I would have no clue of. And the meditative arts helps us see things inside of ourselves and other people that I truly believe that you'll never have any clue of without adapting this kind of a practice in your life.
Yeah, to bring it back to the physical yielding, the analogical and metaphorical back to the football analogies kind of thing. You think of the offensive and defensive line, go, right? Bam! Always centrifugal force, the better of the two, but no, strategy in there can be. Take a posture, but then let up and hope their centrifugal force kind of lets them fall flat on their face. Let them do the work for you. That's, in a sense, a physical yielding, but it can apply to the mental yielding as a form of, like Sun Tzu, Art of War, versus studying Sunburn, The Art of Stupid, right? Thinking better, working smarter, not harder, if that makes sense. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, and that's a great example, the football analogy, because it goes to show that this concept can be applied in anything we do. And that's what's so cool about it, is that, as you dive into these meditative arts, you'll see that they can start influencing everything we do and helping you find the path of least resistance. So there's not so much struggle in our day-to-day activities, and things just kind of start to fall into place and become a little bit easier and more fluid in everything you do.
That's great. Now, let's indeed wrap it up here. Where you mentioned a book, Books are available on Amazon, I take it, yes?
Yes.
As well as other locations, no doubt. Jeff Patterson, do you use a middle initial for your author? Like I'm Joseph M. Leonard because there's a Joseph Leonard in South Carolina. Or is it just Jeff Patterson your books are under?
It's Jeff Patterson. However, if anybody out there is interested in checking out my most recent book, if you go to my website, theyieldingwarrior.com/book, I'll send you out a free copy. You just pay for shipping and handling, and you can check out the book there. Also at the website, theyieldingwarrior.com, you can check out our online program that teaches you how to build an evolving life practice with the meditative arts through many different modalities, how to build a ritual, active, and philosophical practices. And it's a very in-depth program with years worth of content on there. And so you can try that out for a couple weeks on our trial.
And that will, of course, be in the website, theyieldingwarrior.com will be in the extended show notes of the Buzzsprout transcript. And for the behind the scenes video, I will try to remember, now that I have a note, to scroll it across the screen also. And of course, that was indeed the next question. Where do people reach you? And we've covered that. Do you have any other website, or is there anything else in the works?
I'm working on my next book right now. It's called The Yielding Athlete, and it's catered on teaching athletes how to adapt the meditative arts into their life and showing how many professional athletes these days are actually already using meditation. It's really impressive. You would be surprised to note how many are out there. Like, when Phil Jackson was coaching the Chicago Bulls and the LA Lakers, he was having them practice Tai Chi and meditation because it improved their performance on the field. And here you have athletes like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, some of the, the best athletes in the world are out there practicing the meditative arts because it improves their performance. And so there's a lot of social proof out there if you're an athlete on how it'll help you.
I look forward to seeing the offensive defensive line structure analogy I gave in the book. And also, but that's serious. The joke part of it, of course, is you think back to Major League, and it wasn't just meditation, there was voodoo involved, right? Burning the candles and sacrificing a chicken before the game. But the serious side of that film being a comedy and that joke aside, is indeed that matters. And it goes back to my analogy of the football team coming into town for Thanksgiving, being in the hotel, a metaphorical meditation in a sense, that their sole focus is then on that game, whereas the home team has got all those distractions. That's something you agreed with.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, off the beaten path, kind of an analogy, but just the way my OCD brain works. So thank you, Jeff Patterson, for coming on today. Take care and God bless.
Thank you.
The ChristiTutionalist Politics Podcast, normally in conjunction and corresponding with articles, can normally, for the Saturday monologue shows, be found at thefordsnews.com, Substack, or thelibertybeacon.com, and find extended show notes, including related links, in the Buzzsprout episode edition of the Transcript. Thank you for having tuned in for ChristiTutionalist Politics Show. If you haven't already, please check out my primary internationally available book, Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you. Available anywhere books are sold. If you have locally run bookstores still near you, they can order it for you, or autographed copies are available online direct from me via terrorstrikes.info/shop. Be sure to check out more about today's discussion at thelibertybeacon.com, where my articles drop every Saturday. And let me remind, over time, the fancy high production items will come, but for now, for starters, it's just you as a very appreciated listener by me. All substance, no fluff, just straight to key discussion points. A show that looks at a variety of topics, mostly politics, through a Christian U.S. constitutionalist lens. So again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Take care. God bless. Podcast fans, get more about your favorite podcasts via deepcast.fm. Transcripts, and all kinds of extra available information on your favorite podcast, including ChristiTutionalist Politics Podcast, is listed at deepcast.fm, as well as, are you a podcaster? Well, you can claim your free listing and more via Deepcast Pro. Check out tinyurl.com/deepcastpro for podcasters for your free listing, and that's the number 4 in there. tinyurl.com/deepcastpro for podcasters, the number 4, deepcastpro, the number 4 podcasters, via tinyurl.com extension. Take care, all. You gotta check them out. Get more out of your podcast, whether you're the podcaster or the podcastee. Yeah, I think I just invented that word. Like and subscribe to ChristiTutionalist Politics Podcast and share episodes. We need your help.
It is a myth that terrorism stopped during COVID. Unfortunately, mainstream media opted to prioritize pandemic hysteria over promoting all news. Terrorism continues. Simply hoping that it doesn't affect you is not a strategy. The new book, Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you, featured on The Author Show, is now available in paperback from bookstores, online, or as an ebook exclusively through Amazon Kindle. Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you by Joseph M. Leonard. Order today.